There we go. All right. Hey guys, welcome to GenAI in Fintech Meetup's second virtual event in 2025 this evening. Tonight's session's topic is about redefining mortgage broking lead generation customer experience with GenAI chatbot. I mean, a lot of you guys, I'm sure you have experience with GenAI chatbot, but tonight you will see something within the mortgage broking industry, which is quite revolutionizing. Me, for somebody working in this industry, I can tell you firsthand it from a, both a customer and also from a like a sort of a business perspective, this is really, really exciting. For those of you who are new to our meetup group, GenAI in FinTech is dedicated to discussing and also sharing the latest trends, best practices, use cases, and also some regulatory considerations for GenAI applications in FinTech in Australia and also potential globally. We might have some overseas FinTech or GenAI FinTech speakers in the future sessions. A quick acknowledgement of the country before we kick off. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting here tonight. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I also extend that respects to other Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander people here tonight. My name is Kurt Young, the founder of GenAI in FinTech Meetup and also your host for this evening. I'm a FinTech product manager. I'm super passionate about lean product management and also GenAI technologies application in FinTech industry. Hence why I created this meetup around mid last year. A quick sort of housekeeping rules before we introduce our guest speaker. Please feel free to raise your questions in the chat section, which will be addressing them either during or after the presentation and the demo. And also, please make sure to mute yourself while either me or the guest speaker is presenting. And lastly, the session is, as you can see, it's currently being recorded. So what we normally do is we will share the recording on LinkedIn and other social platforms afterwards, so for further learning and discussing purposes. One more great news I would like to share. This is something new to our group. I would like to share before we introduce them. I would like to thank our event sponsor, Oni Group, for sponsoring two $20 digital Visa cards for tonight's events. So which means by the end of this evening, we will announce the two winners, I guess the two most engaged audience who will be taking away those $20 digital Visa cards. So basically you can spend on anything you want, just like money. So that's something really, really good for all of us. So just make sure you stay all the way to the end and make sure you are, asking a lot of questions, and that's the best chance to win. Just a quick intro for Oni Group. So Oni is a global Google Premier partner with offices globally like Sydney, London, Singapore, Dubai, Italy. They have quickly become one of the go-to partners for thousands of organizations around the globe for services and solutions across their full Google tech stack. So if you do, or if you or your organization do have needs around implementing or maybe augmenting Google solutions and stuff, so they are your go-to partner. So please feel free to reach out to me afterwards if you have any interest or questions around that. Happy to introduce. All right. Without much further ado, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you our guest speaker for this evening, Benjamin Baume. I hope I pronounced your last name right.
Fine, it's fine. Everyone butchers it. Sometimes even my own family does, so it's all good.
Apologies on that. All right. So Ben is the co-founder of Craggle. You will see Craggle in a minute. And it's an AI-driven fintech startup that constantly developing new ways to remove complexity and friction within the home loan process or home lending process. Ben has over 15 years of experience in financial services industry, advising senior execs at major and also international banks, skilled across financial planning, analysis, business process automation, optimization, Ben leveraged expertise in coding, system architecture, AI prompt engineering, and also digital strategy to drive innovation. He's super passionate about technology, and also he has helped small businesses across industries to optimize processes and also enhance efficiencies through smart automation and digital solutions. I hope that does you justice, Ben. Over to you.
That was very well. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I thought I'd take you all on, I guess, a bit of a journey around Craggle and how we've been utilising generative AI in our businesses. To do that, I've got to sort of take you through on a little bit of a history. Craggle, we weren't always in the in the AI space. When we initially came together, we were a crowd-based negotiation platform for customers looking to crowd haggle, hence the name Craggle. But crowd haggling is what we were. At our very start. We have already gone through our pivot, but what we've done though with AI is still aligned to our company's vision, which is just to make home loans faster, easier, and just more transparent for Australian borrowers. So home lending for myself specifically, it made the most sense coming into the fintech industry. As Kurt mentioned, I've spent the majority of my career in the financial services industry. A lot of it is just around in the consumer mortgage segment. So when we initially came up with Craggle, it came off the back of a mutual, I guess, frustration is probably the most apt way to describe it. But mutual frustration between customers, not feeling as though they are getting the love from their financial institution, or being treated as a valued customer. Having to go through a refinance pathway just to get a better rate on their existing home loan, even that we know based on customer surveys that 86% of customers would prefer to just stay with their existing bank and just have a better deal. And notice that it's not the best deal, it's just a better deal. So that gives you a bit of an indication there. And also on the flip side is frustrations from a banking perspective. Coming from consumer mortgage at a major bank, home lending, it accounts for circa 35% of your total revenue for the year. So it's quite critical. So there's immense pressure to achieve success. And it's awfully hard to grow at a systems times growth when you have a runoff or an attrition problem. So we're also looking at a solution in there. Anyway, so I've got a couple of slides I might take you through. It's a presentation I've done previously. Feel free to post any questions to the chat as we go. I'll try and keep it, semi-flexible. Don't want it to be like turn into a lecture or anything like that, but more just to give you a bit of an indication of the evolution that we've kind of gone through and what we've identified as part of our innovation process to get us to where we are today. And then I thought what I'd do is I'd finish up with just a demonstration of the technology just in its production environment. For those of you who haven't seen it before. So I'll just pull these slides up. Okay. Can everyone see that? Is that all right? Yep. Great. Awesome. So look, bit about me. Obviously, Kurt's gone through it. So, experience in the financial services industry, some technical capabilities. I will say though, when I started the journey at Craggle, I'm probably defined as what you would call as a non-technical founder. While I did have pretty decent, at least I thought so at the time, pretty decent technical levels of capability. I didn't know the first thing about how to build a website when I first started the fintech journey. That's a lot different to what it is today. So obviously coming in into the startup venture has really created some new skills and allowed me to explore others. But a lot of the skills that I've amassed, it's all just been self-taught. A lot of that's just come off the back of, if I can work out how to do it, it means I don't have to be invoiced for somebody else to do it. So in the Craggle early days, we got a little bit of accolades in there. So we've featured in a couple of news and digital print and some awards, which is always nice to get some of that kudos. So when we started, as I mentioned before, we were a crowd-based negotiation platform. What we would do is we would have what we called crowd negotiation events. We would run them every week. So what we do is we go out and we'd acquire customers through the traditional channels, through native or meta ads, Google search, etc. We get customers to complete the dynamic form that you have in here. It's a real simple process, just filling in some high-level information around your existing home loan, who it was with, outstanding balances, etc. We'd aggregate those customers together, and then at the end of the week, we would close that Craggle event down, and we'd start the next one. So we're always supporting customer inflow. And then what we do is we would engage with the customer's existing bank to see if there was a better home loan rate that their existing bank was willing to provide, leveraging the power in numbers. And at the same time, we would also source the customer a refinance rate from a competitor, again using the crowd negotiation platform. So from a bank perspective, when we engaged with them, we were representing a group of their existing book. And so the conversation was, we have X number of your customers worth X amount of your book. They're not currently happy. These are their various risk grade profiles. What will you be willing to do to retain them? And at the same time, we go to a competitor bank and say, look, we've got these group of customers. They are worth this amount of a consumer mortgage book. This is what their risk grade profiles look like. And what sort of offers are you looking to provide as part of them? It was important that we surfaced both a renegotiated rate and a refinance rate to the customer, just so that the customer had that they had optionality around what next steps that they could take, but also just to put into perspective what their rate discount from their existing bank was in relation to what else they could get in the market. Now, during that time, we found that we were, like with any new business that enters the market, we encountered a couple of challenges, mainly around brand awareness and trust. Obviously, especially when it comes to finances and home loans, customers are pretty skeptical around online scams and making sure that they go with reputable brands, what have you. And then the other bit was that we were addressing an existing problem, and a problem that is it's already got a known solution, and it is overly saturated in the marketplace. And what we were doing is we were doing something completely different. And so we had to explain to customers what we were doing. So where we struggled is, typically a customer gives you about 3 seconds on your website when they initially land on you, until they work out, who you are, what you do, and whether or not they want to do business with you. Obviously, we struggled to try and explain all of that in the 3-second stint that we had available. So we started to have a look at, well, what are the other opportunities out there that we could look to leverage to try and capture more of that, capture more of those website visitors to try and get them to convert. So you'll see in here, we started doing some early conviction testing. The sign-up conversion on our previous crowd negotiation event, it was roughly 36% at its peak. So basically 36% of consumers that started the sign-up process actually completed all the way through. We then deployed a live chat agent. So a human, it's an offshore resource, one of those, those chat box bubbles that appear in the bottom right-hand corner screen of many of the websites. They served a really good purpose of, engaging with the consumer on the website and just providing an option of, providing some insights into who we are and what we do. And we found off the back of the engagement of that, we started to see more of a conversion uplift for the signups for that form. Now, what we found, while obviously, we're really appreciative to get the sign up boost. There's some challenges that came across just by utilising like an offshore live chat business. One, of course, is we don't necessarily have direct control over the employee. Like, yes, we help train and we educate, and we provide feedback on responses and review transcripts, etc. But it is a pretty time-consuming process, especially for a small new startup. The other piece is whenever there's, the other challenge was around consistency of conversation. So because it's an offshore center, they might be rotating their staff amongst a few different live chat services that they're offering, just to allow them to scale and flex where they need to. And so we found that the quality of the conversation was not always there. And of course, you come up with your favorites. And then the final one, which is probably the most, I wouldn't call it stressful, but maybe annoying from a customer experience perspective, is that because it's an offshore resource as well, they can't talk to the client around any of the customers' information specifically. They don't have access to any of the back end. They can't answer any sort of questions around an individual's customer circumstance. So it was that at that time where we started toying around the notion of using a generative AI agent to replace what we had in the form of the live chat, but to allow it to have a little bit more flexibility and capability than what our live chat agents have. So we built a generative AI agent. It ran off a relatively set conversation flow, to which followed the dynamic sign-up form. So the premise was that rather than going to the online sign-up form or the dynamic form, answering the questions through that and submitting to join one of the Craggle events, they can have the interaction with the AI agent. The AI agent will ask the questions, capture the answers, and then when the customer's ready or they accept that they want to proceed, the AI would then push all the information in through to our back end, and we'd capture the customer that way. And the customers were also able to ask any general questions around Craggle at the time as well. And we found that we actually encountered more of a conversion uplift as a result of that. So you can see we've gone from 53% the sign-up conversion by utilising a live, a genuine person as a live chat agent, to 78%, which was our peak before we pivoted to sign-up conversion, where we were utilising the AI chat agent. Now, we needed to pivot for a couple of reasons. One was because we were, in crowd-based haggling, we were just like, the broker proposition. We were to be paid a commission from banks, even from loans that we would have renegotiated to keep with the existing bank, because it was a new, because it was a relatively new way of operating business and a different way of retaining customers. It was a bit of a pilot. So we ran with a major and two mid-tier banks under a freemium type operation, with the intention to move to a commercial arrangement. However, what we found was banks are slow to react, they're slow to adopt, and there's only so much capital you can sink into customer acquisition with no return. So we needed to make a pivot. And so the nearest solution for us was, well, we're already in the home lending industry. We've already got a brand and a presence. Let's capitalize on that, and rather than handing off any refinance opportunities, etc., to a partner broker house, we'll look after it ourselves. So we made a decision to become another broker business in an already saturated market. We needed a key differentiator just to help us. And we also wanted to capitalize on the exhaustive work that we'd already done in the AI. And so we looked at our AI as a way of, how could we utilize that to have more of a fact-find based conversation with consumers, And from the first interaction, help them to understand what their borrowing needs look like, and what rates that they could expect, and potentially which loan products that not only meets their individual circumstances, but also has the greatest chance of success. And so we set our horizons on evolving the existing AI. So you can see, from the get-go where we came from, it was pretty basic. You could get an outcome in minutes, but we probably only had about, I think it was 25 questions in the total dynamic form. The one piece of cool kit that it had historically was there was a fairness assessment check. That worked quite well. We utilised that just to help build conviction with our customers, to encourage them to take that next step, and to also encourage them that there is a pathway forward, that there is a better deal to be had. So we found that quite effective. Yeah, we we decided to throw a lot more at the piece of technology, as you can see. So we wanted to keep the two-way customer interaction, but we wanted to improve on that. Whereas previously it was a little bit static. I'd probably call it a glorified dynamic form in an AI chat widget. But we wanted it to be a lot more conversational in its new version. We still wanted to get the outcome in minutes, so that was really important for us. We wanted to, of course, utilize any machine learning and prior interactions that it's going to have. We're going to, teach it, prompts, business-specific knowledge. We're going to give it a personality. We're going to make sure that any correspondence that it gives to you, it is going to be in Australian English spelling. The piece of feedback that we got from customers from the get-go is what they hated reading American spelling in the previous bot. It was really interesting. They would think the experience was great, but just because you've spelled something with a Z, bit of trust and credibility goes out the door. Obviously, privacy and security was going to be really important. And then finally, some trained knowledge. So we wanted the AI to have a two-way interaction with the client, basically form a financial scenario around that consumer. So understand what their income and their liability structure look like. And by their income structure, I mean not just, do you have an income and what amount is it per year? But what is the source of that income? Are you pay as you go? Like, are you an employed resource, or are you self-employed? And if you're an employed resource, is it just a salary you get, or can you also earn commissions, or can you earn bonus? Do you also receive any rental income? Now, these are all the bits and pieces that start to add to the complexity of a typical loan application process, specifically around bank lending policy and how the various institutions will treat the various sources of income. And the other bit as well is also from a liability perspective, also how the individual banks treat the various bits of liability, how they assess credit card limits, or how they assess an outstanding personal loan. It can range, it's different institution to institution. So ultimately what we wanted to get to was we wanted our AI to be able to provide our customers with a list of serviceable home loan options that best met their needs in minutes and with relatively minimal input. And we also wanted it to be relatively straightforward. So obviously, the ask wasn't incredibly big. And to top it off, we wanted to give that level of variety across, and you'll see, a little over 7,500 lenders across, a little over 50 lenders. The other piece of technology that we started building, so we were clear it needed to be a persistent multi-channel communication just to drive that conviction. And conviction is, I guess, at the core what we really, it's what we initially designed our first AI engine to provide. So for those customers that were on the fence, to help them to make a decision, or to at least have an influence in a positive way to encourage them to take that step. We wanted to ensure that we've got lending parameter and data collection synthesis. That just means we've got We've got the right capabilities within the logic to be able to assess and collect and store the information. We'll have credit policy eligibility assessment for the loan options. We wanted to also speed up the way that we can build the application. Excuse me. So for those who work in the lending industry, you'll know that, or even just in retail sales, I mean, speed is key. Home lending is, one of my old GMs used to say, home lending is a contact sport. The more people that you manage to hit just means the more success and the more dominant that you're going to be in the marketplace. So whatever we were putting together, it wasn't just going to benefit the consumer, it also needed to benefit our internal lending resources. And then the final thing was, we wanted some multi-brand wrapping capabilities, and that's for something I'll cover off separately a little bit later on. Outside of the development of the AI and the interaction, the prompts, all the information inputs and the learnings, etc. I guess that's kind of one end of the scale. The other end is really about the look and the feel. Now, one of the bits that became evident to us really early on is we needed what we were building to look completely different to what customers are used to seeing. And they're used to seeing chatbots in the bottom right-hand corner they're not helpful. You can't, basically, you treat them like a Google search engine. They look to match a keyword with a relative static response. You can't use any personalized information. It can't interact with you individually. And you are basically just trying to work out what prompt do I need to put in for this person to connect me with a real person. So I'll put these screens in there just to, kind of influence, what the market was telling us. What was also really interesting is you can actually see just how, how much these live chat, these chatbots have ruined the bottom right-hand corner. I remember having a look at one of our heat maps for the web page, trying to work out where all of the the web flows and where all the eyes are going, etc. And even though we were getting people utilizing our live agent in the bottom right-hand corner, it was definitely noticeably cooler than anywhere else on the web page. So it was really important for us that we really needed to have an overhaul of the design. What we found was when we initially deployed our first iteration of generative AI, when customers were first engaging with it, their initial thought was this is a static, not helpful chatbot, and they would treat it in such a way. They started to, obviously, once they engaged with it, they worked out that, oh, okay, the engagement here is a little bit different and it seems a little bit more capable than what I was initially anticipating. But if you think about all of the objections or the unconscious objections that you've already encountered, and for the individuals who have elected not to actually click on it and have decided to navigate elsewhere, that's where we needed that new design come into play. And so we spent a lot of time and effort researching ways of how this thing needs to look and design. One of the primary challenges we had in the design is because because no one, at least from the research that we were able to undertake, as far as we could research, no one was utilizing AI in the way in which we were wanting to utilize it. And so we didn't really have anything that we could use as a benchmark or a design principle or a foundation. So we really had to start from scratch. So, obviously we had a nice big, planning session, tried to build in all the bits and pieces. We drew from inspo from different websites of designs of, different things that weren't quite right. And we also wanted to balance to ensure that any AI-based interaction, it's really easy to deploy a chatbot where you just have text input. A two-way text conversation with a bot around a home loan, that can drag on really quick. Especially if you're manually inputting, I am looking for a refinance, send and wait. So we also wanted to ensure that the engagement was fast and simple, relatively structured, and it was we broke it up in such a way just to keep the customer engaged. We didn't want to lose them after prompt 5 just because the customer was sick of manually inputting responses. So we ended up with a design here, which is a combination of I guess there's some form elements in there. It's an embedded chat widget. It's housed on its own page, so it doesn't pop up anywhere or it doesn't jump out at you trying to engage with you on a website. So we've just got CTAs on the website that take you to where the AI agent is. As you can see, it automatically renders to either mobile or desktop. We utilize a combination of buttons where there's relatively set inputs for the customer to choose from. We've got the chat bar at the bottom where the customer can actually ask a question at any time, which the AI can respond to, utilizing its generative AI capability. It's also got slider widgets, just mainly to break up that type of conversation. So sorry, I'll probably talked enough on the design. The next piece was around, okay, so we've got the design and we've got the prompts. The next bit is around, well, how do we get the lending information as part of it? And what we found was our AI was also the key to resolving certain roadblocks. Now, from the get-go, we wanted to have a look at how we could utilize existing serviceability calculators that are already in the market, just to help us with speed to launch, etc. So yeah, as an example, we engage with Quickly. For those who aren't aware, Quickly is a fabulous tool that's used by majority of brokers in the market, I dare say. What it allows brokers to do is with input of relatively small amount of financial information about a customer, it'll start to spit out serviceable home loan options that's available to that client for that broker. And it's basically got the bank policy details and income treatments, liability treatments, etc. that's built in as part of its assessment criteria. And so our broker is able to input it. So we reached out to Quickly to see whether there was a way for us to, through an API connection, utilize their existing calculator service. And unfortunately, their focus was, well, maybe it's not unfortunate, I understand where their focus needs to be, but their focus was on how to optimize the processes for their existing broker customer base, which is fair and reasonable. It's a fantastic tool, as I said before. But that left us with a problem around, well, how do we perform these serviceability assessments? So the serviceability assessments just based on general criteria, that's good. But where we wanted to go is we wanted to be able to assess it as a Westpac or as a ME Bank or as a RedZ, as an example. So we wanted to be able to apply the same assessment criteria that is applied at these banks level to really give a high level of confidence to the consumer that the loan options that the AI is putting forward, at least based on the financial information that's been provided to us, looks like it would service. So what we did have access to, though, through our aggregator was the bank lending policy through AFG. And so what we were able to do is we were able to take that information, which unfortunately was in a non-machine readable format. Thankfully, AI was able to help us with that as well. So we got the AI, we taught the AI how to read non-machine readable format, how to interpret the rules, how to come up with the logic, and then how to apply that logic as part of its capability and assessment. And so for those of you curious to understand what that looks like, that's what our AI is reading at the moment. So yeah, I think there's about 56 different lenders with AFG at the moment. So we've got all the lending policy associated for them. in the back end. In Craggle AI's knowledge base. So all the various ways that each one of those individual lenders will treat rental income versus self-employed income versus a casual income, as well as all of their various products that are in the market. Whether it's for owner occupier or for home loan, if it's a fixed rate, if it's for interest only, etc. So I might just pause for a second, just to give a chance for any questions or anything. I can be in a habit of just talking at people, so I'm really sorry.
That's all right, Ben. We do have a lot of questions in the chat, but I was thinking maybe just given that people hasn't really seen Craggle yet, I was thinking maybe it's a good idea to kind of just to show people what Craggle looks like, and then we can there might be even more questions coming up, and we can use the final maybe 15-20 minutes each to go through all the questions. Do you think that's a better approach?
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. So we'll do that. So that should be up in front of everyone. So this is our production environment. I don't know, Kurt, do you just want me to talk lightly and just go through as the demo, or?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you want to just sort of we can do a live trial, whatever.
Yeah. Look, I'll do the basics. So we got look, I recently broke this up. We previously just had refinance and new loan. Refinance had a rate check in it as part of it, but just off the feedback of clients, we had some that just wanted to dive straight into a refinance first. So we just gave them that option. So I'll do the check my rate. The check my rate process, it's an impartial fairness assessment of your existing home loan rate. What's a common one I've been seeing at the moment? I think it was 6.12 earlier today. And so what we're also doing for the rate assessment, one of the pieces of feedback we got when we were starting the build, it was that customers can find it difficult to understand or to rationalize what their savings opportunity is or what interest rate they are eligible for. One of the biggest pain points that was definitely showcased was specifically around comparison websites. How the comparison websites, and you probably encounter them yourselves, they typically show a bank's hero rate, which is typically a 60% LVR lend, so definitely not proportionate to the majority of customers looking to take out a home loan. And so what we were finding were customers were getting frustrated because they were having some false expectations set for rates that they could find on a comparison site, but obviously because they weren't a 60% LVR, they couldn't achieve that. So what we do that's a little bit different is we're actually comparing your rate against like for like. So the rate comparison, what bank am I going to be from? No one seems to like Commonwealth Bank at the moment. It's comparative based on your current home loan structure. So we're comparing owner occupied with owner occupied, with a 80% LVR with an 80% LVR, etc. So here, this is that first fairness assessment that I spoke about earlier. This was that first conviction tool. Where we initially started was we initially had a life of loan saving communicated here at the middle. I've pulled that back down to a year. One of the things that became clear pretty early on is it's really hard for customers to rationalise what a $24,000 life of loan saving looks like over a 28-year period. So we needed to bring something down for them just so that they could rationalise a little bit easier. We've also got this little dynamic I guess, hook that the AI is also putting together off the back of the saving. It'll do its own little sort of random assessment. If it's a yearly one and it's quite good, it'll come up with something. If it's relatively small, it might break it up to a monthly figure and say, something like, that's your coffee for the week, every week, as an example. So, in this situation, we're saying this is like having a new smartphone every year, or a concert experience. Probably not a Taylor Swift concert experience, but you might be able to get somewhere pretty good for that. Saving up to 48,000 in interest over the life of loan. So obviously, if I would have just said, you could save up to 48 grand over the 26 years, that might sound good, but what does it actually mean this year or the next couple of months? So that's the first conviction tool. So let's continue on to try and find a better deal. So primary goal for refinance. We've also built
can I ask a question when possible?
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, mate. My name is Kater. How are you going?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Thank you so much. This is amazing, by the way. I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask a couple of things.
Yeah.
By the way, that quickly thing you mentioned before, if you guys can get that, it's a game changer. Like, I don't know if anyone used quickly before as a broker. It's like the best tool I've ever seen in my life. Unfortunately, it's the same. What I find with customers who are rate shopping,
Yep.
I've been doing this for 15 years. What they do, mate, is they waste your time, they get all the details, and then they go to their current bank and they'll say, hey, this is the confirmation that I've received from a different lender or broker or whatever. Can you match my rate? So I find that is always a big problem for me. So
Mhm.
what I do now, I twist it around in a sense where I tell the customers, look, before I can rate shop, before I can do anything, I need your documentation. I need your paperwork. So I make them work a little bit because once they do provide the paperwork and have actually showed me a bit of, interest, it's most likely it will go ahead. So I'm
Mhm.
worried about this. Like customers will go online, they get the details, and then they'll present it to the bank, and then we're just kind of shooting ourselves in the leg. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, look, from a bank perspective, they've got their various, I guess, risk grades for retention protocols. With banks, as you know, it's all a gamble for them, and they spend millions of dollars a year trying to work out what is that tipping point for this specific customer where I can make the most amount of margin on them and keep them as an existing client. So they've got various retention practices in. So yeah, your prime example, right? And I remember this back in my time. Back when I worked for one of the majors, the number of customers that would come in with a printout from what is it? It could have just been a approval in principle printout from another bank. They would have printed a page out from a comparison website of just other rates that are out there on the market, etc. Look, I guess where I'm getting at is there's I guess this doesn't do anything different to what they can currently get today. But I guess the trade-off is at that first step, from a bank perspective and a customer retention perspective, that's pretty low flight risk from as far as a lender's concerned. Okay, you've got a printout from another bank that there's a better rate somewhere else. Yeah, cool. If they're semi-motivated to try and retain them, they might give them a couple of bips. But they're not going to, turn around, pull down their pants and say, what will it take for you to stay? They're not at mortgage, discharge submission with, unconditional loan approval elsewhere step yet.
They have been a little bit. I get what you're saying for sure. They have been a bit more tough. Like for example, CBA have cancelled the discharge form, so you can't do it anymore. You have to call up, and you have to get a rate review and discuss with you your options. And this is a bank who's got 11 million customers, right? It's just crazy. So I love this. I'm just having a look because I'm scared to burn myself in the sense where everything is done. I'm never getting in contact with the client, and they're just taking the offers, and I'm never getting a chance to kind of maybe help them more, if that makes sense. That was my question, though. Thank you. Yeah.
No. Look, really good question. I think it also just comes down to the, I guess the target customer within that marketplace. For us specifically at Craggle, we're not necessarily. I mean, look, it's always great to get a rate shopper that's out there because they're the ones that are more prone to refinance. Provided that they don't get adequate traction with their existing bank and they're happy to stay, etc. We're after the ones like we've built a process specifically to target customers that currently think that refinancing is too hard. And so we're wanting to try and introduce a methodology that makes it a little bit more simple for them to adopt. And so we're actually looking at this as a way of tapping into a segment of the market that currently isn't speaking with us today. And I know from our own research, right, for a customer who gets to year 3 with a bank, they've had a loan with a bank for 3 years or more. We know that 35% of those customers won't even consider refinancing ever again. And so those customers have got that customer for life. Sorry, those banks have got that customer for life. And that's where they're going to make the most amount of margin and gold. And those are the clients that we're trying to tap into.
For sure.
Hope that helps. The other bit is I'll tap into, and it's more. I guess it'll be more the experience of what our broker goes through. So if I think about what his process was prior to us connecting up the AI, and I'll cover this off a little bit later on down the track as well as part of the presentation, but. We kind of see this tool as being part of the discovery / initial engagement scene. So not just for refinance, but also, this tool works for purchases as well. So we've got the customer at least at the start of their refinance journey. They've potentially got itchy feet, but they don't quite know where they stand or what the other options are. And so at the moment, they'll do one of two things, right? They'll either do a little bit of market research themselves, they'll either go to some comparison websites, or they'll go to some big name lenders and just have a look at rates on their internal boards, just to try and understand what the market pulse is. The other thing that they would do is they might go directly to a broker that's in the market, or directly to a bank to get some advice, or to utilize their skills to let them know if there's a savings opportunity. What we're trying to do is to bridge those functions together as part of this tool. So if I think about the typical process our broker went through when we had a callback form on the website, someone call me, I want to speak about a refinance. It's currently, I have this interest rate and it's for this amount, call me. We'll try and call them, obviously, as quickly as we can. Obviously, the faster we can try and call them from when they submit that form, the better that first time success rate's going to be. But it could take us up to 2 days in playing phone tag before we reach that person. The first thing we do once we get a hold of that customer is we'd have a general conversation with them around what are you trying to do, etc. We might capture some high level financial information from them, plug them in there quickly just to try and understand what might service. Whether it's whether this is a borrowing capacity conversation, something that we should just put a pin in the board for, and we'll come back to it at a later date once they they boost their serviceability or their deposit, or they know what they want to buy, etc. Or they're about to go to auction, what have you. We'll then send them your fact find document, and you basically just wait. And I don't know how you go with these things, but it can take anywhere from, it depends how motivated the client is, right? They'll get it done anywhere within 24 hours to maybe a month. And that's not including all the pay slips that you want, etc. So what we've got is we'll have something that does, I guess, the equivalent of that high range fact find conversation. We're understanding what the core need is, what they're trying to achieve. what their current loan structure looks like if it's a refinance, or what loan structure they're going for from a purchase perspective. We're getting some information from them around what their income and their liabilities look like. Now, absolutely, we haven't validated it yet. It's purely based on client input. So we're talking about, probably approval in principle type level of criteria, but at least gives us enough of an indication to understand, where the buyer intent is, and two, what level of financial information we have to work with at the moment. And obviously we'll undercover more of that as we go further down the process. Now, all that information, when they've gone through the process, we've presented the customer with some loan options that look good. It's purely based on serviceability and the loan features that are important to the client. The client can either choose one of them, or they can leave it. But either way, we've captured the client. It's automatically come in through to our CRM. There's a automatically assigned to a broker, and the broker's picked up the call and had that first outbound call. Now, we've had instances where a broker's been able to contact a client within 10 minutes of this interaction. And that first conversation, it's not a, tell me about what you're trying to achieve. It's about what your next steps are to, make this come alive. So what we've done is we've taken a lot of the phone tag, the toing and froing, and the chasing, at least just to try and understand, one, whether or not this is a customer that needs more or less of our attention up front, and also how motivated they are into taking that next steps. We've collapsed that down, potentially from weeks into minutes, and what we find is the follow-on conversation that is about next steps, it's a lot more fruitful, and we find customers are more motivated to take that next step because they feel as though they've already started to fill an application through, which all this information gets plugged in as part of the application. So there's no rework that's required as part of this or anything either. But as you know, to get to that unconditional assessment, we've got to take it a lot further. But it allows us to speed up at least that initial engagement, discovery, understanding, and to create conviction to try and take that next step.
That's awesome, Ben. Just given the interest time, I was thinking maybe we can start to address some of the questions in the chat. And also for people in the chat, might be easier, rather than me trying to paraphrasing, maybe, just you guys can come out, unmute yourself, and ask the question to Ben directly. Maybe we'll start with Sebi, if you're there. Feel free to just chime in.
Yeah, sure. I'll kick off. So just question, great presentation, great tool, Ben. Thank you for showing us. I think question more around just when you pivoted to AI, were there any considerations about data privacy of customers? Were there any regulations around it which you have to kind of go through and comply with and stuff like that?
Yep. Hang on, sorry, just give me 1 second to put this text thing in before it expires. And I'll do my best to multitask, but I know I shouldn't, so I'll probably just do this and then stop. So absolutely, from a data privacy perspective, especially in financial services industry, absolutely paramount. Not just to make sure that you can continue to operate with a license, but just so that customers will also trust you enough to use you. Now, one of the hurdles that we were able to overcome is one of the hurdles we were able to overcome is we came up with an approach that obfuscates PII information from the AI. So you fill in your personal information as part of the AI engagement, but the underlying LLM is not privy to that information. It just knows it's been collected. And so all the information that the AI is collecting is being, transferred directly into Craggle's secure backend database, which I understand we built it to SOC 2 compliance, but we just haven't done the SOC 2 accreditation yet. But from a privacy, but from a security perspective, we had to undergo some testing back from our Craggle days when we were negotiating directly with banks. And so we had to undergo bank risk assessment and security assessment. Thankfully, we passed, so we were able to partner with them for that stint. Those safeguards are already in place. With regards to this, there's not, I mean, outside of the Privacy Act and our obligations is to ensure that it is secure. There's nothing special that we needed to do outside of just making sure that we're adhering to those rules and obligations specifically. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's good. Thank you.
Oh, all right. I think we got some more questions there. I think next one I can see in the chat is from Daisy. Daisy, do you want to ask away yourself?
Yes, really great session. I think my question is more about the function, and then I want to know whether it can act as a real digital mortgage coach, like educating the users about the process, options, and also I'm not too sure whether it could use some behavior cues like the typing speed or hesitations to offer personalized reassurance or the next steps.
Yeah, great. Really good questions. So it's got a capability to answer questions at any time as you go. It can include so when I mentioned before with the PII information, so those sensitive information such as your name, your email address, your phone number, etc. That is all privy. It is not privy to the AI. Your loan scenario or your financial scenario is, because at this point we're just talking about a financial scenario. You can't identify someone with an annual salary figure or a home loan amount. We're not capturing the security address as part of this flow, so there's nothing sensitive in there. So if you're asking a question as an example, such as, like what's an offset account, or giving an example of how this might work, etc. It can utilize the inputs that you have made as part of that response, just to help tailor those responses to you. It's also got machine learning in the background where it'll continue to monitor how people are responding to its answers. Unfortunately, we haven't had great volume in that just yet, so we haven't been able to utilize it. But basically, if the AI starts to discover that an answer to, say, an offset account question isn't exactly clear, it can, obviously it can shape from that. From a buying journey perspective, that is something that we've been toying around with at the moment. One of the great things with AI is that you can deliver a really good and personalized service experience. So one of the things that we were thinking about is how we could utilize this tool and its capabilities to have a bit more of a guided conversation, specifically with first home buyers, give them a bit more of an understanding or a little bit more hand holding to help them understand what the steps are that are involved, and to help them get the confidence that they are making the right decision, and to encourage them to take that next step. So that's definitely something that we're looking at. It has the capability to do, we just have it turned off at the moment, just for speed and agility. The final bit is from a personality engagement, we've played with that a little bit. We found really early on that clients don't like emojis mixed with finance. Finance needs to be professional, no fun. So we turned off all the emojis, we turned off all the jokes. We've got it, I guess, we think we got it about right. It's flexible but clear, and structured, not too unfriendly. We've toyed around the options around personalizing that, and you absolutely can. You can do it on the fly. If you wanted to talk to you in terms of the world of Pokemon as an example, it'll absolutely do that. And finally, we're also toying around with voice-to-voice capability, where this same type of interaction can be done over the phone, and the different personalities that we can program in as part of that. But that's still pretty early days for us. It still sounds pretty robotic. Hopefully that answers your question.
Cool. I think we got 3 more questions, Ben. I think I just put in the chat if we could just extend a few more minutes so we can actually do the final announcements of the winners. So let's try to go through the rest of the questions very quickly. I think the next one is from the audience with the with the alias accountants. So I don't know if the accountants is.
Oh, hi. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. That was pretty good. Your platform was very interesting. There's some, I guess, long comparison tools out there already. I guess the difference that you have is you have some kind of a chatbot that you can feed the data real time and to answer the customer's question and eventually act as a sales agent to guide them through to a loan processing conversion. So, like, is that your key advantage compared to those other comparison platforms?
So one is yes. So obviously we've got it all self-contained, so we have complete control over the consumer's end-to-end service experience, because the lender is in-house as well. The other advantage that we have over other comparison type services that are out there at the moment is we're also assessing the loan options in terms of we're utilizing bank policy match to ensure that the loan options that you're actually seeing as part of the loan options for you that meet your individual needs actually service based on matching your financial policy with bank's lending policy. So that's something that won't be available in a lot of the comparisons. I dare say any of them. For the most part, comparisons will be drawn and provide rates based on LVR only. So they'll be looking for the best rate for a specific LVR. We are looking at, obviously the most competitive rate options with that LVR, but that you also meet the serviceability for, because there's no point us giving you, serviceability, a loan option for a bank that you just won't service for. That's just not setting realistic expectations.
Okay, so you're saying you have a serviceability calculator inbuilt into
Yes.
your bot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So what we've got is over 7,700 loans across 50 plus lenders, and once you get to the end of the flow, it'll instantly assess you against all of those loan options, and it will present to you the top 10.
Right. Okay. Then how do you update the serviceability? Because I guess pretty much every month or every time the rate change.
Yeah, that's right. So it's, the serviceability it updates. So the rates, they'll update every day. Bank policy, it updates. Look, it can update periodically. It's generally a little bit more robust, but we update the information every day.
Yep. Okay. Wow, that's a huge task. Yeah, because I'm a broker myself, and
look, I guess that's the power of AI. It takes about 2 minutes for the AI to ingest the new information and to deploy it. So it doesn't take long at all. There's other, like, the other thing that we could also have a look at is there's also CDR for the bank lending policy and product information that we could connect it to, and that's a live connection. But we just well, there were 2 reasons why we didn't go down that pathway. Is one, when we first started this was a bit of a white paper approach, and we didn't know whether it would work. So we didn't see the initial investment of 20,000 to get that CDR registration, and the 20K is like the minimum 12-month spend that we needed to make in order to have that connection. We didn't see that as a viable expense. And then the other bit is that the information in there isn't in a machine readable format either. And so we figured, well, we may as well take the format that's free and isn't in a machine readable format anyway. So that's another solution that's available to us later on down the track.
Yeah. Okay. I think in your case, your target audience doesn't just have to be the residential themselves. You can probably target the like your maybe like other brokers as well, because you can help them to solve certain questions pretty quickly.
Yeah, so we've also got sorry, I'll just bring this one up. We've also got brand wrapping capabilities of the AI. So Craggle, we've got two brands that operate with the AI tech. So we've got Craggle, which is our direct to consumer proposition. And then we have Chrome Loan, and Chrome Loan's our third-party provider of the tech. And so what we do is we partner with, referrers who are able to wrap this as part of their brand and almost offer this as part of their existing proposition or value proposition to their existing clients. So as an example, we've got 14 accountants who are subscribed to us. They've got their own version or their own branded version of the AI tech, and they use that as part of their own or their existing service offerings to their clients, just to help provide more value and look after more of their needs. And obviously, there's a there's a referrer arrangement in place, so they get a piece of the pie for any customer that we're able to look after.
Just given into the time, sorry to cut you there, accountant and also Ben. Or just quickly cover the last two questions. For the last two questions, I was just thinking maybe I'll read it out. In that way, we can cover that like relatively quickly. We got a question from Peter asking, "Does your AI strategy also help with lead generation?" Which I'll get Ben to quickly. Some thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, interesting question. Look, to generate brand new leads, maybe. Excuse me. Right, like with anything in retail sales, it's the acquiring of the customer. It's the most challenging piece. What we do find though, at least for the leads that are coming in through the AI, and what's actually quite interesting is we've got both the AI capability and we also have the callback form. And especially where we've run email cold marketing campaigns and we've prioritized the callback form because we just felt that was just easier for someone responding to an email if there was any sort of interest to try and capture. What we found was everyone had navigated away from that and ended up coming into us through the AI channel, which really caught us by surprise. So that was actually quite interesting. So it seems to be working quite well, at least for that regard. So it's good with that, in fact, that clients are curious, and once they start using it, they can't stop themselves. And so far, the experience has been quite good. We've got an AI experience measure that we capture as part of that interaction at the end, and I think we're hovering at about, it's actually increased over the last week, so we're running at about 4.4 out of 5, which is great. The feedback is just obviously it's fast, it's responsive, and it's really simple to use. But what we are finding is that, at least from a leads perspective, is that the way in which that we've structured the flow and the approach and the way it then lands with one of our lenders, it helps us with that lead, I guess, conversion to next steps, because that first conversation that you have with a potential client, it's about what they, excuse me, it's about the next steps of helping to achieve what they want to achieve. You're not having that first discussion to introduce yourself and how you can help and all that sort of stuff. So the broker that we have at the moment, he dives straight into, I see you're looking to try and do that, which is great. You've got some good lending opportunities. You have a good solid income that's behind you. We need to validate that with, X, Y, and Z, but these are the next steps that are required, and, blah, blah, blah. It just kind of flows in through from there. What we also find is just from a lead perspective, is we've got a lot more customer rich information than what we would typically get out of any lead. If you think about a typical lead today, especially if it comes from a callback form, in most cases it's a name and a phone number. And it could be, there could be a time limitation around it. What I mean by that is you don't know when that lead was submitted. With this, it's all tied in as part of it, so it all comes in live. And we've got SLAs with our broker that you've got to contact them within 30 minutes of receiving the alert, and they actually get the alert while the customer is still engaging with the AI. What we also find as part of that is, as part of that process, you would have seen I put in a mobile number. The moment you put in the mobile number, we've got them on our records, and we've got a validated phone number in which to contact that customer. So, it's not just entering in a mobile, you've also got to validate it with an SMS code that we send you. So it's a real phone number. And so we're also finding that even if a customer drops out, if I was to drop out as part of the flow now, obviously, my broker knows my number, so they'll pick it up. But it still allows us to contact that customer and pick up the conversation from there, and still enabled to encourage that next step.
Amazing. Looks like that was the last question. I think Cleve just mentioned his question was answered through like your previous answers, probably. So I think just given we already way over our
sorry,
time.
I'm also just trying to get to the loan options bit. Just so if you just give me 1 second, I'll just finish this little piece so you can just kind of see what that looks like.
Awesome. Cool.
So sorry, Mail here can only do one thing at a time. So while I'm talking, I've had to leave the I've had to leave the AI flow alone. But I'll bring that up in just a sec. We're nearly at the end of the flow here. We'll just bring that back up. Thank you for those who are standing on a little bit longer. I'll just get my credit card limit.
And while Ben is loading that up, guys, I think I shared a link with you guys for Craggle's chatbot experience. So feel free to try that out. Of course, I mean, if you do have a genuine refinancing home loan needs, I think that's probably the best, because I don't want them like everyone just putting through fake leads and your broker is just following up, but like for no reason at all. So and like
I can
that'd be awesome to go through this.
I know Kurt's going to give away those gift cards, but I may as well jump on that bag and say I'll offer everyone a free home loan health check as part of this. So, sorry, and in this pit as well, we also capture just some high level features that's important to the consumer. Just allows them to tailor the potential loan options that they get. That might as well give myself a good score. Okay. That'll work. Look at that. Of course there is.
That's all right.
Might leave that.
Do you not have like a mobile phone SMS verification?
Yes, yeah, we did that earlier on in the flow.
Okay.
Yeah, and you might have seen that. Hang on, I'll just bring it up. Yeah, so we had it up as part of here. You also would have seen that the screen also changed color, the background. So we went from I can't remember what the branded color is, some sort of really light teal to this grey. That's just to help customers to understand that they have moved to a secure environment. So one of the other bits is, as part of this flow as well, is you're in essence, you are also creating a user account with Craggle as part of this process, but you're not having to navigate and change screens as part of that. So you're all done within the same widget and window, but we do just let people know by a simple screen color change that you've moved from the public domain to the private environment.
That's cool.
Amazing. All right. I think that just leads to the last, and probably one of the most important. I hope that's also part of the reason why a lot of us has been staying back. So maybe I'll leave this honor to Ben. just given all the questions you've been addressing, Ben, maybe for not 2 questions, but for 2 people who ask the questions, can you nominate 2 people that you thinking probably should be getting those gift cards? I'll leave it to your decision on that.
Oh, geez.
I think they like pretty much all the questions in chat as well. I mean, I think we addressed all of those. So if you quickly just scan through the thing, because you answered like
oh yeah.
those questions.
I actually like the question from Daisy
About
the
coach,
mortgage coach, and
yep,
yeah,
awesome.
so I thought that was really cool.
Well done, Daisy. That's that 1 gift card to you. I'll message you straight after, email you with the details, and yeah, congrats. Who will be the other?
Oh, there's another one as well. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
There was what was the other one?
I think there was the one from Sabi about the privacy. I think there's one about the lead gen one from Peter. I think from accountants there are some questions that he was asking earlier.
Yeah, the lead gen one. That was another good one. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
You said that was Peter?
Peter, yeah, there you go. Well done, Peter. So there you go. So Peter, Daisy, well done, congrats. Hopefully in the session moving forward, if you guys can join as well, we'll try to get this gift card section as it's normal, like a normal thing as well. Hopefully that's working out for you guys, and also I'll reach out to the 2 of you with the details of the digital gift cards. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Kurt.
No problem. Well, I know we're way over. Thank you guys for staying back on a Tuesday night. I hope all of you guys got something out of it. So this is actually our 2nd session. The last one we also covered around GenAI in mortgage broking. Thanks to Ben. You were awesome, Ben. I apologize. I think I got you to talk too much to tonight. I know, didn't even give you like a break for drink some water. I can tell. You were like, oh man, this is. But I hope everyone got. Yeah. You are so. I don't know what's to describe. I think everyone can see the passion you have for the industry, for the innovation that you're doing in this space, and the amount of work that you and your team has been doing. So we really appreciate all the amazing insights you've been sharing with us.
Oh, pleasure. And look, I'm pretty easy to lead off onto a tangent, and I've been told I can talk underwater, but yeah, sometimes I need a waffle alert. So hopefully I really hope you guys got some value out of it. Feel free to reach out to me outside of this if you had any other follow-up questions, or I wasn't able to get to it as part of this meeting because I was talking too much, and apologies again if that's the case. But I'm very love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That'll be great.
Awesome. Well, in that case, we'll wrap it up, guys. I haven't really made the announcement for the next one yet. I'm still finalizing the next guest speaker. Hopefully that one coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. And also we're planning an in-person one in July. That's also quite exciting. So just stay tuned. There will be more events to come in the coming weeks and months as well. Well, have a good night, and
Awesome.
you guys
Thanks,
online.
Kurt. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.